In 1962, a young man from Oregon named Phil Knight had a crazy idea. He wasn't a businessman, he was a runner who hated how expensive and heavy track shoes were. At the time, if you wanted a good pair of shoes, you had to buy German. Adidas and Puma ruled the world. But Phil had noticed something interesting. Japanese cameras had recently disrupted the market, beating out the high-end German lenses. He thought, why can't Japanese shoes do the same? Most people laughed. His father was skeptical. But Phil borrowed $50, booked a flight to Kobe, Japan, and walked into the offices of Onitsuka Tiger. He didn't even have a company yet. When they asked who he represented, he panicked and made up a name on the spot, Blue Ribbon Sports. To his shock, they believed him. He walked out with the distribution rights for the United States. When the first shipment of 300 shoes arrived, he didn't have a store. He had his parents' basement and the trunk of his green Plymouth Valiant. He drove from track meet to track meet, selling shoes directly to runners. The empire had begun, but it was built on a lie. By 1970, Blue Ribbon Sports was booming, but the relationship with Japan was falling apart. Onitsuka Tiger began to see how much money Phil was making, and they got greedy. They sent a representative to Oregon to secretly scout other distributors, planning to cut Phil out entirely. Phil discovered the betrayal by accident when he found a list of other distributors in the representative's briefcase while he was in the bathroom. It was a declaration of war. Phil realized that if he didn't start making his own shoes, he would lose everything. He had to pivot from being a salesman to being a creator. He needed a brand, he needed a soul, and he needed it before the Japanese pulled the plug. While Phil handled the business war, his partner, legendary coach Bill Bowerman, was busy in a backyard shack. Bowerman was a tinkerer. He hated the traditional metal spikes on shoes because they tore up the new synthetic tracks. One Sunday morning, over breakfast, he stared at his wife's waffle iron. He saw the grid pattern and had a wild thought. What if the sole of a shoe looked like a waffle? He grabbed the iron, ran to his garage, and poured liquid urethane into it. He ruined the iron. It was a wedding gift from 1936, but the result was revolutionary. It provided grip, it was lightweight, and it cushioned the foot. They called it the moon shoe. It was the first true Nike innovation. It proved that Nike wasn't just importing shoes, they were inventing the future of sport. They had the tech, but they didn't have a name. Phil wanted to call the company Dimension 6. His employees hated it. At the very last second, before the first shoe boxes were printed, an employee named Jeff Johnson woke up from a dream. He saw the Greek goddess of victory, Nike. They hired a graphic design student named Carolyn Davidson to draw the logo. Phil told her, "I don't love it, but maybe it'll grow on me." He paid her exactly $35 for the swoosh. Today, that logo is one of the most recognized symbols on Earth. But in 1971, it was just a cheap sketch on a piece of paper representing a company that was nearly bankrupt every single month. By the early 80s, Nike was losing its edge. They were seen as a jogging brand, and jogging was becoming a fad of the past. They needed a miracle. They found it in a rookie named Michael Jordan. Jordan didn't want to sign with Nike. He wanted Adidas, but his mother convinced him to fly to Oregon to hear them out. Nike gave him his own shoe. The Air Jordan won. But there was a problem. The NBA had a rule. Shoes must be 51% white. Jordan's shoes were red and black. The league sent a letter banning the shoes and threatening a $5,000 fine for every game he wore them. Phil Knight's response was, "Wear them anyway." Nike paid every single fine. They turned the ban into a commercial, telling the world the NBA can't stop you from wearing them. Sales exploded. The sneaker culture we know today was born from that one act of rebellion. From the Waffle trainer to the Air Max, Nike began to dominate. They signed Tiger Woods, Serena Williams, and LeBron James. They didn't just sell shoes, they sold an idea. The Just Do It slogan, created in 1988, wasn't about athletics, it was about life. It was about the person who wanted to wake up at 5 a.m. and change their world. Today, Nike is worth over $100 billion. Phil Knight, the man who started with $50 and a car trunk, is one of the richest men in history. The story of Nike isn't a story of luck. It's a story of biting off more than you can chew and learning how to chew it later. It's about the courage to keep going when the bank says no and your partners betray you. Every empire starts with a single step, often in a pair of shoes someone else told you wouldn't sell. So the only question left is, what's your crazy idea? And what are you waiting for? Just do it.